Okay, so we are back and continuing on our series, our chat about instinctive meditation, and following on from our previous session, the last session where we had the absolute honor of having Dr. Lorin Roche join us. So Lorin talked about a lot of things, but mostly around the theme of rhythm. And there is so much to talk about on this theme and this topic. And before we dive into rhythms in the context of meditation, Michael, where are you now?
I'm the same place that I was just last time,
Okay.
which is Kakadu in
Okay.
the Northern Territory. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. In amongst the heat of a season that is between the wet and the dry. And interesting, I suppose, when we talk about rhythm, one of the things, one of the obvious rhythms to us is the rhythm of the circle of the planet around the sun. In the temperate areas and higher and latitudes, that's very obvious in summer and autumn and winter and spring. You know, we see our friends in the United States on our calls. They're coming to a point where now they're dropping into fall, and it's very obvious the leaves are falling from the trees. You know, here in the Northern Territory, the people call it the wet and the dry.
Yeah.
But interestingly, the Indigenous people of Australia in this area, they actually break it up into 6 separate seasons.
6 seasons. Okay.
Six different seasons, and they have their own names. But there's a lot to do with fire for the Indigenous people. When's the right time to light what type of fire to manage the land? You know, we have some little understanding scientifically of the climate, but I think Indigenous peoples around the world have an understanding in their nature and in their culture of what's happening, what the rhythms of the land are that support life. You know, whether it's this is the right time to light a cool fire because it'll just take the undergrowth out and it'll leave the top of the trees growing so that we can flush out some food, you know, or so that certain plants will sprout. You know, I think we are really unaware of it as part of, I suppose, the legacy of the people who came and colonized these places. Probably the same in North America, South America, whereas the Indigenous people, they live in tune with nature and in tune with the rhythms of climate and land. That was a little rant, but that's where I am.
Yeah, but a good way to really introduce rhythms, you know, talking about the Indigenous culture and people of our land, this place we call home, and their really intimate understanding of the rhythms of nature and the rhythms of the seasons, the rhythms of the lands and the rains. And so, you know, we could say that meditation should be always in service of life, and along the way of our meditation practice, we should be, I believe, developing these intricate skills to be able to not just navigate like there's some, you know, foreign object or barrier, but to really savor and cherish that the inner rhythms of flow. And Lorin talked about this, that life is rhythm and flow, and that instinctively, naturally, humans, we love rhythm and flow, although it does seem to be that, you know, a vast majority of us, certainly here in this kind of westernized, colonized culture, we've become detached from our own rhythm and flow. It lost that intimate relationship and appreciation to the inner rhythms, and that extends and expands into the rhythms of our outer environment. But the structure of our meditation really should be all around the rhythms and sort of having rhythms and serving the rhythms of life.
One of the things I think that civilization, Western civilization, Western culture has lost is a balance between, and Lorin spoke about this as being one of the rhythms, about that balance between being and doing.
Yes. Yeah.
That being is that here I am. I'm actually here being in myself or doing. You know? And I think he said, sometimes people are doing 16, 17 hours a day, you know, and they might be being for an hour and then they're sleeping for 6 or 7 hours, you know.
Yeah.
Where they're not actually serving themselves by sensing in the world around them, by feeling into and being part of the world. We do that through our senses, right? Attuning to it and feeling in sync with the world. Whereas a lot of work is pushing, creating, doing. And towards the end of that conversation, you touched on something that was pretty important, which is how we spend time in doing what pleases us, and what our soul yearns for.
And I think certainly there are people, and I can relate to it, and I can think of people who love doing stuff, love being active, love, giving out energy, and love being productive, and love work. And those people conversely seem to or can often lack the skills to appreciate the process of unstressing. So the process of relaxing, So humans, I think we love doing stuff, to put it really simply.
Yeah.
And we also instinctively love resting. And one of those basic rhythms, as Lorin introduced, of being and doing and being doing, could be reframed as taking action and then resting, taking action and then resting. And it's this pulsation or maybe a cyclical rhythm between the two. And we can get stuck in one and not feel complete and not feel whole if we're not being busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And likewise, we can just get stuck in the relaxing. It's like, I don't really want to move. I don't want to do anything. I'm just going to be lazy, could be one way to frame it. But there is, I think, a skill in embracing it all, and recognizing that there is a rhythm, there is a flow, and it is natural to kind of weave and morph between the two states. What's your experience with that? Be action and resting.
Recently, I had the wonderful experience of cutting a foot and letting one of the exotic bugs of the Northern Territory into my system, where it multiplied profusely and made a mess of my foot. Now that enforced on me rest, and my experience of that was quite difficult, right?
Yeah.
Because at the moment, we're sort of in an active phase of what we're doing here, trying to explore nature around us. And there I was in Darwin, in hospital for a day, and then at the caravan for another 5 or 6 days, not being able to do much at all. And that brought up that conflict of being forced into doing nothing.
Forced into a new rhythm that wasn't planned.
Yeah, forced into doing nothing. And fortunately for me, I have more, I suppose, interest to draw on than actually being having to go out and see things. So I wrote some stuff during that time, you know, and I was able to be with myself internally and still have that balance of doing and being, you know. So I didn't have to just be there and do nothing, but I could also do. So it's I suppose we instinctively we manage ourselves so that we have that balance, you
Yeah.
know. One of the things that we've been talking about constantly over the last 6-7 weeks or whatever is about it. Instinctively, we know what's right for us. You know, we know that there is a flow that is right for us, and we can as we practice, we recognize when we're not working with our own flow, when we're squashing ourselves, when we're not being our own inner rebel, as Lorin said in the last conversation. You know,
I think it's true. Like we instinctively have this ability to love the flow and rhythm. But there seems to be this conditioning where we're being trained to try to control the rhythm or stop the rhythm or deny the rhythm or sabotage the rhythm. When I have conversations with people about their experience of meditation, you know, they might say, oh, you teach meditation, and so we, you know, naturally will have a conversation. And yesterday I was having a conversation with a friend, and she has very little experience of meditation. She's reading a book at the moment. And she said, from Monday, I'm going to start 20 minutes a day. Okay, what are you going to do? So she said, oh, well, there's a script, and, you know, I'm just going to, you know, I'm just so busy, and I'm trying to, you know, stop my thoughts, and I've got this racing, busy mind. And so, you know, which launched into a big conversation. But I think what typically happens in a typical person when they come to meditate, they enter this sort of phase where they settle in, and maybe they'll choose a tool or a technique. We could call it a mantra, we could call it breath, we can call it, you know, maybe you can say, I'm just going to dive into my inner rhythms, maybe, if you have that skill. And often there is a whole lot of stuff that happens a lot in the form of thoughts, in the form of memory, in the form of sense memories, and we can find ourselves lingering in the past, and ruminating over unfinished conversations or business, or we could be fantasizing or planning for the future. We could be in this inner narrative of like being in an inner movie, and in a sort of daydream state. We can hit a kind of bumpy patch where we enter this feeling and memories of pain and past hurt, and whether it's physical, you hurt your foot and you're remembering what happened, and maybe you're like, oh, why was I so stupid, I kicked my foot on that thing, and or you know, broken hearts and breakups and grief and loss. And it seems to me, when I have these conversations with people, that when they get to those almost inevitable experiences, they encounter them during their meditation, they believe, they truly think that they have failed. And they have failed in meditation, because there is this instruction that seems common in meditation instruction, that your task, your goal, is to calm the mind and still the thoughts and find that, you know, calm pool. Like there's that Buddhist kind of, and so
Yeah.
The tragedy is that oftentimes people will have that experience. They think that they have failed, and so they will then resist what naturally wants to happen, or abandon it altogether, abandon their meditation practice and give it up. And it seems like we are being trained to deny and almost not trust our inner process of a very powerful inner process of healing. So it's like, I believe that we should be learning to listen to deeply and trust life. Life is rhythm, life is flow. But a lot of people's experience of meditation is pretty much is opposite, where they're being trained to abort, to abandon, to disable what is natural and what is instinctive.
Sure. I think what you know, what comes up in a meditation practice is it's not all flower and roses, right? Um, if you're drawn to inner work of any sort, it is a healing practice.
Yeah.
And we may dive into a meditation wanting to go and be with what we love, you know, but inevitably the natural process, the natural rhythm is that you will be with what you love to a point where you become rested. Oh, and soak in it and say, this is beautiful. And there may be a little moment of rest in that for a moment. And then you have given permission to your inner guidance to bring up what is ready to be acknowledged and worked with and healed. That's the natural rhythm, the natural cycle that Lorin Roche has so simply put: as you rest, you heal, then you get ready for action. And that acknowledging that over and over again, that I go into I just love being in the ocean, floating there. It's so beautiful floating in the nice warm ocean with the sun on my skin. And I wish that I had a different life when I was a child, because it is so stuffed up, right? That pops in, and that's the opportunity while you're in that restful state for angst to come up, because your soul is ready for it to start to be soothed. To acknowledge that, to say, okay, well, whatever's coming up here now, it's time for me to acknowledge, accept, embrace, celebrate life coming to heal itself in me.
And when we do, you know, fall into that and surrender into that trust of life, and even though, and despite the feelings of discomfort and the kind of, you know, tender wounds being healed and that maybe past pain and trauma coming to the surface, there still can be this presiding feeling of being at home in yourself and being at home in the universe, and that trust in the rhythm and flow of life is itself quite soothing and powerful and a feeling of being content and relaxed within yourself. And it, you know, your meditation experience can be really busy and noisy and might feel anything but calm. But if we have that overarching attitude of welcoming and embracing and trusting the flow, the outcome at the end should be that we feel more alive. You know, we are feeling more attuned to who we are, and then we have more skills and power to step out into life and lead life with purpose and meaning and whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
So it's serving your life.
Yeah. So while you're experiencing that difficulty, what's happening is you're getting ready to live your life in a different way. It's like naturally your life doesn't want to continue the cycle and live in this forever. So you will start to change the way that, say it was a shitty conversation or whatever, change the way that you perceive that as being your life. Your life shifts a little bit and you're prepared to live differently next time you're confronted with that situation. It's like the choreographing your life for when you come out of meditation. Now, it's all noisy, right? It's all noisy while you're in it. But what it does is it gives you the opportunity to, when you are actually back in your life, because remember, meditation is not about being all blissy while you're in it, but meditation is about when you come back into normal life, that you can be more graceful in the way that you live.
And again, you know, just to remind, you know, we're talking about a meditation style that is in the path of intimacy, you know, being intimate with life and intimate with you. And meditation should be in the service of our life. It's in the service of our love, our life, our play, our work, our relationships, of having a home, of having friends, of having a dog, having children, having a family. And so the structure of your meditation, like life, should be all around having rhythms and flow and serving and savoring those rhythms. It is really quite simple. You know, life is flow and life is rhythm. But it seems to be a great skill that for many people is a big challenge to I don't want to use the word master, but to embrace. You know, it's simple. Life is rhythm. Life is flow. Things are changing all the time. Embrace it. You know, that's the statement of instruction, really. But it is a really, really delicate skill to put into action because we are so easily able to shift into this judgmental commentary about our inner experience. And I know Lorin introduced a couple of tools and techniques. He gave some instruction in our previous chat.
Yep.
And I can't remember word for word what he said. I need to listen again. But it was along the lines of, you know, what rhythms do you love? And to essentially sort of dive into that. Can you remember the instruction he gave on the last conversation?
No, not specifically, no.
To dive in, to use, to savor the rhythms of life. And, you know, in the course of a day or a week, a regular person experiences many rhythms of waking and doing stuff and sleeping, or even, you know, going so far as breaking it down to preparing food. There's some planning, there's some preparation, there's the creation, there's the consuming, and then there's the cleaning up. There's a rhythm of sharing a meal or creating a meal. And you know, of course, we have the rhythm of a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have a rhythm of the lunar cycle, the rhythm of the seasons. And I think we can sometimes forget that that nature and all these rhythms of nature that essentially govern our lives, Nature is not something that's just like out there away from me. It's a part of me. It's a part of who I am. I am a part of nature, and meditation can be a way for us to cooperate with those rhythms, and also to appreciate our complete interdependence on the rhythms and natural flow of life, and that in itself can set me for sure into this mood and feeling of awe and wonder at how amazing this one precious life really is, and that I'm a part of this majestic universe that is all interacting and has been and will be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, if we can go on a cosmic scale, right? Say that there's a rhythm of the movement of the galaxy where 22,000 years it might take for our sun to go spin around the core of the galaxy. We can come to bring that down into the yearly rhythm of the Earth spinning around. We can bring that down again to the monthly rhythm of the moon working around. We can come down again to the 6 hourly movement of the tides due to where the moon is and the spinning of the Earth. You know, we can come down to the 12 hourly rhythm of day and night, at that diurnal rhythm that we're sort of built to be sleeping during the night and awake during the day. You know, that we can come into the cyclical rhythm of women while they're in that period from 13 to 50, whatever, you know, however long that is.
That
We've got
cycle.
the reproductive cycle of women, or that reproductive time of men. We can look at the rhythm of the biorhythms of, or the Chinese medicine rhythm of when our particular organs are most attuned to the world. You know, your liver time might be between 4 and 6 in the morning, and you know there's so many ways that we can perceive rhythm. There's if we come down even further than that, there is that cycle of breath that has our own particular rhythm, and the parts of a breath cycle that everybody loves of their own. We've got the rhythm of the beating of our heart, you know, which is going on as inside that. Awareness of rhythm and awareness of all these different cycles is an invitation, I suppose. It's an invitation. Like we become aware of our instincts, like we become aware of our senses. You know, like Lorin was saying, our ears are picking up the rhythm of movement of air. You know, a particular rhythm of music can be enchanting, or it could be provide dissonance and discordance in us. You know?
I think just to bring it, you know, back to where we began this conversation, and I think where we concluded the previous one, where you talked about the tragedy of the loss of knowledge, or the denial of knowledge and understanding of our peoples, the original inhabitants of this land, and the amazing body of knowledge that they have and had of this natural world. And likewise, it seems quite tragic that we're not educated about the natural healing rhythms of our bodies, unless you went on to study it at university. It's only for certain intellectuals that have access to that information, it seems. I mean, we all have access to that information, but it should be something that is essential to be taught from our mothers, from our fathers, from our teachers, whatever our educational exposure is. But the essence, I guess, of this topic and this theme of rhythms in meditation is that when you meditate, you are putting yourself in relationship, you're putting yourself in rapport with your really intelligent, self-healing, self-renewing powers of your inner nature, and that you are a part of nature. And as I mentioned before, that is humbling, and a really, really simple yet incredibly powerful approach to meditation is to seize that opportunity of meditation to be just transformed by this awareness of what is going on inside. With every breath and every heartbeat, we're enacting our complete interdependence with the wider natural world. And we've discussed that before when we've had, conversation around the senses.
Yeah.
I think, we could go on and on about rhythms, but I think, we've had a couple of conversations around it for now, and maybe we'll revisit it later. But I guess the essence of this topic is for you, the viewer and the listener, to really start to tune into your inner rhythms, to embrace them, to celebrate them, to cherish them, and to know that when you meditate, healing occurs. A healthy meditation should lead you to that, relaxation response that is a part of your inbuilt healing ability, and that you should not resist. You should dive into that inner adventure and celebrate and love your inner healing abilities.
For sure. One of the, I suppose, an idea that I came up with some time ago was that the way we relate to our experiences is on a continuum, right? We can go into a meditation practice, and what comes up, we could start by just outright rejecting it, and it could be that stuff comes up that you say, I cannot go there. I'm not going to go there. And I reject that completely. But I'm going to be with myself in that rejection. I'm not going to belt myself up because I'm rejecting that. I'm just going to be tender with myself as I reject that. Sometime later, that same idea may come up, and you might just be able to tolerate it, tolerate being in that sensation, tolerate being in that pain. You may move from rejection through tolerating to acceptance. I accept that it's there. Then you may be able to embrace it, and eventually you might get to the point where you're able to celebrate the fact that you're feeling something that is really painful. Yeah. As you move, and there's sort of a rhythm to that, a cycle to that as well.
Yeah. And you could,
as you come to that idea of being able to celebrate something all throughout your healing. There's a healing journey in through all of that. But as you come to celebrate the fact that you're alive, that you feel pain, that things make you feel icky, and when you do, you're going to start to make a life that is celebrating all of your life, not just the good bits, celebrating the losses, celebrating the griefs. Yeah. If you get to the point where you feel something and say, no, I can't go there, I'm getting up away from my mat, that's or getting off my chair, or no, I can't, that's when your journey will stop. Just learn to tolerate, just to start with. Just learn to tolerate the pain and you'll come through. You come to a meditation practice because you want to heal. You come to a meditation practice because you want to grow, or the inner practices, or whatever we want to call them, yoga and meditation, or life skills, or whatever. You're here because you want to grow and move through whatever it is that's calling to be healed. The skill is staying with the rhythm.
Yeah, and it's really a very powerful way to engage in self-care and self-care of this magnificent piece of technology we call the mind-body system.
Yeah.
You know, one part of and a supremely important part of the process and the practice of self-care is tolerance, acceptance, which might lead then to embracing, cherishing, loving. Maybe, you know, that it might be an evolution in that terms, although it wouldn't necessarily be a goal. But I guess to recognize that in meditation, hurt and pain comes up because you've created a safe sanctuary to heal, you know.
Yeah.
So you yourself have created this place that way you feel comfortable and able to just release a teeny little bit more of that closed up wounds that needs to be healed.
Yeah.
Yeah, again on that point, I think maybe we should wrap it up. Rhythms, it's such an important theme to discuss and to talk about, and for me, when I was first exposed to one of Dr. Lorin Roche's models for the inner rhythms,
Yeah.
it really, for me, was revolutionary. It just radically changed my experience. Once I saw the model, it was, you know, explained. It was hugely liberating to know that, so relational. So I
Yeah.
was able to just go, wow, that I'm allowed to accept that. What invitation to and to be liberated from thinking that I was flawed and there was something wrong with
Mm-hmm.
me and my inner experience, and to be able to embrace all the inner rhythms and movement and flow was hugely empowering. And so I really hope from these conversations that we can help, you know, people out there listening and viewing, that they can learn to experience the power of meditation, but also the joy, the joy, and that they can use these tools to go out and really thrive in their own piece of little corner of the planet, and thrive in their life.
This is right. This is, I think, you know, on a global scale, that we need more people to be in tune with themselves and the flow of life through themselves. And as we had a seminar webinar earlier this morning before we started, where this idea of taking time out from devices
Yes.
and becoming attuned to the world around us as it is, as opposed to the way we see it through here. Um, getting in tune with the natural rhythms that are around you, the rhythm of your breath, the rhythm of your walking, the rhythm of the sun going up and down. Yeah, what your senses are telling you that the world is, rather than what the people who manage technology are telling us that the world is. Come into contact with your own experience of the world.
That's it. Be informed of reality by your own direct experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
great message and a
Yeah.
great reminder.
Yeah.
Um,
Look at the flow. Look at the flow of rhythm that's in the world around you.
Be in life, the life that's around you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again, Michael. This has been great. I look forward to hearing where you are in your wonderful adventure in a caravan around Australia. So until next time, take care.
You too, Tash. See you soon.
Bye.